Episode 3. We experience the issues the band has with their lack of commitment and effort towards the club. Episode 4, they get a push from Taki-sensei, and that pressure wakes a fire inside the group, where they all put in extra effort to try to show them up, in which they finally succeed in playing together as an ensemble. Episode 5, they practice hard for the Sunfest in an effort to show everyone else that this school is no joke this year. They continue their progress, cementing their commitment to go for nationals. The episode ends triumphantly. Or at least it should. Instead, interestingly enough, after all this, we end the episode with 5 seconds of this shot. This frame gives off quite a bit more of a bittersweet feeling than you'd expect, especially after the success they just had at the festival. So I thought that was kind of cool. Let's figure out why. Let's start with the backdrop of a bright blue sky. Traditionally associated with something hopeful, looking towards the future, or that cliche shot of a hand reaching for the sky, which is like them trying to reach for their dreams or whatever. This sky might actually be the representation for the rest of the band, in their success and revived conviction to do just that and shoot for nationals, not hiding from their fear anymore. But superimposed to that hopeful backdrop is Kumiko, alone, bathed in shadow, even though the sun is shining bright behind her, and as she solemnly stares up at that bright blue sky, perhaps wondering where her place in it is. There's a conflict to be resolved still, shown here through the contrast of Kumiko bathed in shadow and the bright world around her. The very first scene we ever see in this series is the difference of convictions and expectations between her and Reina when they were in middle school band. You'd imagine, because this is the central issue that the series is gonna tackle. Why was Kumiko okay with the dud gold, but it drove Reina to tears? The next thing that seems to suggest there's a struggle within Kumiko, or at least something's being suppressed, is later, all through episode 1, you notice she never actively enacts her own agency, being pulled through her day by her surroundings or her new friends, being a passive bystander ever since she was a kid, getting stuck with the Euphonium in the first place, and then in middle school when no one else wanted to play it. But when we get back to her room and start to remember her middle school days, we see her shelves full of music books. We remember that she carries a keychain of a tuba still. We look at the music book on her desk full of notes and scribbles. We get the flashback of the concert they played and the amount of effort Kumiko put into it. Throughout the next couple episodes, she chimes in to teach her new friends little things about playing their instruments. And in episode 5, the thing that makes this final frame really punch is the short scene of Kumiko sweating from the amount of effort she's still putting in here. We can clearly tell that she hasn't taken band lightly, which is in contrast to her attitude in that first scene, where she has tempered her expectations. We can tell that she's clearly talented enough to hang with the band both in middle school and now. But what that final frame shows us is that her problem, those tempered expectations, are holding her back. She's trying to protect herself from the fear and the pain just like everyone else was. But by the end of episode 5 here, the band's problem with this very issue is mostly solved. They find the resolve to fight the fear and push themselves for nationals, and if she doesn't also, then she's gonna be left behind, being overshadowed, swallowed up by their passion and conviction. But she's lost, with her head literally in the clouds, wondering why it doesn't feel like she's a part of the sky. Which you can see unfold later in the show. First with her guilt from playing in the band over Natsuki, especially after seeing the effort she's putting into practicing. She saw Natsuki putting her all into the audition, but even though Kumiko was working hard too, it wasn't the same. But then getting the inspiration from Reina, first from that iconic festival scene, and then later from her determination to play the trumpet solo and be special. Seeing and falling in love with the girl who is putting her everything into this to be the best, to be special, no matter the pain, no matter the heartbreak, no matter the struggle. And then finally, from the heartbreak from her particular failure in episode 12. We all know the scene where she truly comes to grips with her desire to improve and the stinging pain of failure. Finally mirroring that of Reina in episode 1 and now the rest of the band. And we knew all of this was coming just 5 episodes in. Looking at this one frame and how it speaks volumes to the progress that the band has made and where Kumiko stands in all that. How as a whole they've moved forward with their convictions against their fears, but Kumiko herself is left alone, standing still in the shadow of their progress, where she knows something's wrong, but she's not yet ready to realize her own tempered folly. That's the context of just those fleeting 5 seconds.